warehouse in North Miami, Florida. This grainy surveillance footage shows a crime being carried out: the smuggling of chemicals called HCFCs, an ozone-depleting substance. Illegal trade in ozone-depleting substances, ODS, first emerged in the mid-1990s and remains a threat. At first, the focus was on CFCs, but now the risk of smuggling HCFCs is on the rise. HCFCs and CFCs have been widely used as refrigerant gases for decades. Yet these chemicals damage the ozone layer, on which all life on Earth relies. In 1987, the global community agreed the Montreal Protocol, a treaty to progressively phase out ODS. Illegal trade has largely mirrored the phase-out schedule. CFC smuggling into the US and Europe in the mid-1990s, spreading to Asia and beyond by the end of the decade. CFCs are now virtually phased out, but consumption of HCFCs is on the rise. So the risk of HCFC smuggling is growing, posing a new challenge to enforcement agencies around the world. Prevention involves actions to ensure illegal trade does not occur. A key tool in preventing illegal trade in ODS is an effective licensing system covering both imports and exports. This means that only authorized companies can trade ODS and allows quotas to be enforced to ensure compliance with the phase-out schedule. This shipment of HCFCs was seized in the Chinese port of Ningbo, as the exporter did not have a license.
我们07年的时候有这么一起的案例，是非常典型的。它是深圳抬头的一家企业，申报的货物呢，向海关申报备案的货物呢是塑料夹子。那塑料夹子属于很普通的货物，也不需要许可证啊，包括相关的一些证件吧。 监管条件比较单一，因为我们是通过电话举报，知道了他们所出的近期可能会有所出的货物，像煤气罐一样的一罐一罐的东西。当时因为我们刚查到呢，不知道里边的所含的物质成分是什么，只是凭标签上面标注的化学程式和一个俗称就是氟利昂222。 这个物质呢，就是很常见的一个纯的氟利昂，也是我们在那个 ODS 名录里边明显规定的是对消耗臭氧层物质，属于消耗臭氧层物质，那也是说进出口是受国家限制的。那他这个货主采取这样的手段呢，明知道自己所出的是 ODS 物质。 但是他通过申报不同的货物、别的品名，可能是不需要任何监管条件的。那以此想来冲关成功，被我们抓获。然后在我们后续的调查过程中，一开始货主单位还是不愿意承认这个他们走私出口的这个事实。经过我们的进一步调查，包括比对他公司的进出口记录。 以及装箱的记录，以及对相关装箱人员、操作人员的一个调查，发现这个企业所说的这个谎言就不攻自破了。那最后他们不得不承认，确实是因为无法办理，它是原先的那个许可证件的日期到期，所导致它无法。 及时的办理出相关这批货物的一个国家的一个许可证件，那因为又赶着要按照约定的合同的约定出货，所以必须得就想到了以那个调换货物品名的方式啊，伪报品名的方式来冲关出去， 那至此这个案件就被我们破获了，然后一共是420多瓶的氟利昂货物就被我们查扣，最后是没收掉了，基本情况是这样。
For licensing systems to work, cross-checking between countries is vital. The informal prior informed consent system, or IPIC, provides a means of doing this.
The IPIC system is basically a mechanism that makes sure that the ozone officers in the exporting country and in the importing country communicate with each other before a license is issued. Today, IPIC is a very well established procedure, and in the new online IPIC system, we can actually cross-check for each participating country whether or not the importer or exporter is actually eligible to trade ozone depleting substances in that country, and we can also get information about the general legal situation in the country, and that helps us in evaluating whether or not we should issue an import or export license concerning that country.
In order to prevent smuggling of ODS, it is essential to have an effective licensing system, the use of quotas, and cross-checking through IPIC. Detection is a tactic enforcement agencies should adopt to uncover cases of illicit trade in ODS. One of the largest cases of HCFC smuggling to date was detected in Miami, Florida. A company imported over 400 tons of HCFC 22 from China via the Dominican Republic. It was also in Miami where CFC trafficking first emerged, prompting the US to establish an interagency task force to tackle the issue. The same approach is being used to curb HCFC smuggling under Operation Catch-22. Once again, effective cooperation between agencies is producing results.
The most important thing, top of the list, is for agencies to be able to work together and share information, not get into any turf battles or wanting to take the credit for themselves. There needs to be one goal, and that goal needs to be to stop the illegal importation of the ozone depleting chemicals and work together. And that includes Customs, EPA, the U.S. Attorney's Office. We all have one goal, we all work together, we all share information. If there's no sharing of information, you can't put a stop to the illegal importation.
We've been extremely successful due to our cooperative efforts with the other agencies in Miami. We've probably had in the last few years 8 or 9 different convictions for companies and individuals, resulting in $1 million of penalties collected. The R-22 is just becoming increasingly smuggled due to increased demand and increased pricing. It's all about illicit profits.
The case involved misdeclaration of the ODS as HFCs, a non-ozone depleting refrigerant, and transshipment via a third country to confuse the trail.
Freud and James Garrido were importers of several products into the U.S. Between 2007 and 2009, they imported large quantities of R-22 into the U.S. without the proper consumption allowances. What James Garrido was doing, they were trying to hide the R-22 in container loads in different manners. They would put, for example, they would put a container load 3/4 of the way full with R-22 and put a different product in front of it, so that way when customs would open the container, all they would see was something different than the R-22 that was really hidden behind it. After many of these containers coming in, Customs, CBP, Customs Border Protection, began to realize that Garrido and Croy were importing way too much R-22. So they contacted EPA. The two databases were compared, and it was realized that this R-22 was coming in without the consumption allowances.
A range of smuggling methods for ODS have been uncovered. Common methods include misdeclaration, with ODS declared in shipping documentation as legal HFCs or mixed refrigerants.
134C 包装里面食物跟那个瓶体是12的，这样子我们已经出过很多了。
出过很多。
出过好几年了，都没有出过问题。
都是出口到哪里啊？
出口很多地方，像我那边的话，我是毛里求斯啊，还有是那个以色列，因为我那边主要就是负责以色列、南非啊、毛里求斯之类的。
所以你们很多经验。
对。
In some cases, virgin ODS have been falsely declared as recycled material.
For R12, I think for future, for this year, now I tell you truth, we have no export license for R12. If I export to you R12, we declare the customer with not R12 or refrigerants, just like 404 or just other blended mixture.
Smugglers also use a method known as double layering, hiding the illegal ODS behind a layer of legal goods.
一个集装箱嘛，对不对啊？1140瓶嘛，我给你装1140瓶分量是不会少的。其实外面给你放一排，就是有这个134A 这个纸箱嘛，知道吧？但是我把这个里面再放100个纸箱在里面嘛。 你回去以后就把这个纸箱就这样拆开以后套进去就好。
This X-ray of a container stopped on the Finnish-Russian border shows illegal HCFC-22 concealed behind a layer of ceramic pots. Detection. The main smuggling methods for ODS are misdeclaration, false packaging, declared as recycled, double layering. Careful checking of documentation for ODS shipments by frontline officers can uncover smuggling rackets, as this case from the Philippines shows.
When we look to the documents presented by the representative of the importer, we notice that the value of the 134A is very low. So, from there, we request that it should be alerted. And truly enough, when we open the container, it is 134A. The packaging, the markings of the or labels of the cylinders were all 134A, including the UA number. So now, I thought that we have already lost the case. But one last hope, we used the refrigerant identifier, and presto. It is 100% CFC12.
Given the scale of global trade, effective risk profiling at the point of import is vital in detecting illicit shipments of ODS.
Jika importer profilnya profilnya high risk dan kemudian barangnya high risk juga, dia akan masuk jalur merah. PT Setiawan Abadi merupakan importer yang termasuk kategori high risk bagi kita, dan ditambah lagi dengan barang yang dimasukkan, diberitahukan dalam PIB tersebut adalah refrigeran yang merupakan juga termasuk juga high risk. Jadi yang bersangkutan masuk ke dalam jalur merah. Setelah pemberitahuan jalur merah diterbitkan, kami sebagai kasih pabean memerintahkan kepada pemeriksa barang untuk memeriksa barang yang dimasukkan oleh PT Setiawan Abadi tersebut. Dari hasil pemeriksaan petugas, dari barang yang diberitahukan sebagai R22 diragukan oleh petugas pemeriksa barang, karena di dalam di tangkinya atau di kardusnya tertulis difluorometan, yang kalau kita lihat itu artinya adalah R12. yang mana itu termasuk refrigeran yang dilarang, yang merupakan perusak lapisan ozon.
Risk profiling and inspection should include imports of HFCs, especially HFC 134A, which is commonly used to disguise illicit shipments of ODS. Thailand has made a spate of ODS seizures based on solid risk assessment procedures.
The profile works when the importer submit the entry declaration to the system. The profile will analyze the validated information and specify as either green or red channel. We are implementing the risk profiling system, and we've been using the X-ray machine that we have both fixed type and mobile type. And we also using the CCTV, which we have more than 1,600 cameras nationwide. And we also use the inside information from intelligence sources.
As well as seaports, risk profiling should take place at land borders where smaller consignments of ODS can be smuggled on trucks.
The main location of the seized ODS, so far we found at in the south, in the northern part of Thailand. We have a long border share with Laos, and then of course it's difficult to protect the long border. And also we have the border sharing with Malaysia, which is of course long border. And due to the limited resources that we have, it's difficult for us to control. Well, although the smuggling method to the land border and the seaport are different in terms of routing, method of concealment, but we have been implementing the risk profiling system and X-ray machine to detect the ODS.
Risk profiling and inspection should encompass bulk shipments of ODS in large tanks, as well as smaller cylinders. An increasing threat is posed by illicit trade in counterfeit refrigerants, involving fake branding on cylinders and packaging, commonly labelled as HFCs, a group of non-ODS refrigerants used as alternatives to HCFCs. These cylinders often contain contaminated refrigerants, which can be dangerous when used.
Often the products that they're selling illegally are putting our customers at risk, end users at risk. Equipment, expensive equipment, is being damaged by these materials in some cases, and also it's putting people's lives at risk. And there are significant safety concerns around some of the materials that are being falsely put into packages as quality refrigerants, which they are not. There are a number of impacts of counterfeit refrigerants. I mean, obviously there's a business impact to quality suppliers like DuPont. It has an impact also, therefore, on our customers and end users. I mean, the expensive equipment used in critical applications can be damaged by these illegal substances, and there are a wide variety of substances that are put into cans and illegally labelled. And much more importantly, really, there's a safety impact. I mean, people have been injured by illegally packaged materials.
Well, so in summary, there are a few things that you can look for to quickly help you identify potentially counterfeit materials. Number one, look for the name of the company who manufactured the refrigerant. If it doesn't say Honeywell for our product, or doesn't have any name of a company who manufactured the product, then you should suspect it. Typically, manufacturers always put this information on their products because they want you to know who manufactured it and to contact them again. If you don't see contact information, again, suspect the material. Some other things to look for counterfeit Genetron material: misspellings of the Genetron name. It should say Genetron with the registered trademark symbol. In general, look at the paperwork and look for things that don't look right. You can contact local sellers of refrigerants to get examples of valid cylinders that are being used in the marketplace, so you can become familiarized with them. And don't be afraid to ask questions.
In order to detect ODS smuggling, it is important to establish interagency cooperation, be aware of smuggling methods, check paperwork for indications of illegal trade, conduct risk profiling, and inspect for counterfeit refrigerants. Publicizing successful seizures is an important way of deterring would-be ODS smugglers. Following up on seizures by prosecuting the culprits also sends a strong message and can suppress illegal trade. The HCFC seizure in Miami led to the prosecution of both the importer and company which bought the contraband refrigerant gas.
When you have a success, when you make even a seizure, even if you can't make an effective prosecution, you need to get that word out. It's very important that your target audience, and you have two here really, you have those who are abiding by the law and are supporting it, and you have those who may be inclined to break the law. Both of those groups need to know that there is enforcement, and the second group needs to know that there is a tangible and palpable risk that they'll be detected. Their goods will be seized and forfeited. They'll lose the economic benefit of their deal, and they personally will be prosecuted. You can take money away from people, and that can make them very upset, but nothing has the impact of taking the time and putting them in jail and all of the collateral implications and consequences that go along with that. That's where the deterrence comes from. If no one's aware you're acting, you might as well not have done it. It's not important who you are, it's important what you do, and you have to let the public know that. I don't want to downplay the value of seizures, because let's face it, this type of environmental crime is an economic crime. It's driven by the money and the huge profits that can be made at all stages of the smuggling continuum. But I think it unlikely that you can effectively deter this type of conduct solely with seizures. Our system is based on both general and specific deterrence, a concept we actually borrowed or inherited from our cousins across the pond. And that tradition recognizes that if the conduct is truly criminal and considered significant enough to warrant the type of focus that we are giving it, then individual responsibility and liability is essential to persuade others that there are better, less risky ways of making money. The potential harm globally of excessive amounts of ODS is not even debatable, and the success of the Montreal Protocols, I think, demands that we back it up with criminal enforcement.
Monitoring the marketplace as well as the point of import can yield important intelligence in the fight against illegal trade in ODS. Here, industry can act as an important information source.
We basically work with our customers, and we work with government officials on the ground and customs officials, for example, to train them specifically on how to identify counterfeit materials. We work with trade associations as well, and really as an ongoing campaign to try to educate the market of what's happening, where it's happening, and how to identify potential counterfeiting. We work with authorities very, very closely as necessary when we get a suspected counterfeiting incident. We've had incident, particularly in the Middle East, where we identified one company that was infringing our trademarks and serially counterfeiting product. We followed up again with the local authorities and successfully prosecuted an individual for that activity. And we'll continue to do this, not just in the Middle East, but other parts of the world where we discover that our products are being illegally counterfeited.
International cooperation is vital to share intelligence and carry out coordinated enforcement operations. World customs organizations can act as a conduit for information sharing, as well as coordinating joint actions such as Operation Skyhole Patching, which led to the seizure of over 700 tons of illegal ODS in the Asia-Pacific region. To help suppress ODS smuggling, it is useful to publicize seizures, prosecute culprits, monitor the market, and use international cooperation channels. Effective interagency and international cooperation, robust licensing systems, and vigilance by enforcement agencies are key in preventing, detecting, and suppressing illegal trade in ODS, allowing the ozone layer to recover for future generations.